Chosen one, this message is not random, it is not coincidence. It is not an algorithmic accident, it is divinely timed. Heaven knew the exact moment your spirit would be ready to hear this. You have endured long seasons of pressure that no one applauded, silent battles that no one saw, storms that did not announce themselves publicly but raged privately within your mind, your heart, your circumstances. There were days you felt like you were carrying everything alone. Responsibilities, expectations, emotional weight, spiritual warfare. You kept going not because you were strong, but because something unseen kept holding you up. And now heaven speaks clearly, the struggle is over. Not the existence of responsibility, not the call on your life, but the exhausting survival mode striving that defined your last season. The war for your survival has ended. You are entering rest. And rest is not laziness, it is not retreat. It is spiritual restoration, emotional healing, divine realignment. It is stepping into rhythm with God instead of fighting to control outcomes that were never yours to carry. If your spirit feels the shift already, type 77 in the comments. Not as superstition, as agreement, as alignment, as a declaration that you are ready to receive what heaven has prepared. Like this message if something inside you feels lighter. Subscribe if you know you are stepping into a new season. Only those spiritually sensitive will recognize the weight of this word. Because you are not just finishing a hard season, you are crossing into a new spiritual atmosphere. And it begins with understanding this truth: God saw every struggle. Before you can fully step into rest, you must confront a lie that followed you through the storm, the lie that you were unseen. You remember the sleepless nights, the kind where your body was exhausted but your mind refused to rest, replaying conversations, rehearsing worries, trying to calculate solutions to problems that seemed too large for your hands. You lay there staring at ceilings, wondering if anyone truly understood the weight pressing on your chest. God saw it. He saw the silent tears you wiped away before anyone could notice. The moments when you smiled publicly but felt fractured internally. The times you said, "I'm fine," while your spirit whispered, "I'm tired." God saw it. He witnessed the hidden battles, the temptation you resisted, the anxiety you fought through, the depression you refused to surrender to, the anger you swallowed because you did not want to step outside of alignment. He saw the betrayal, the injustice, the doors that closed without explanation, the people who walked away when you needed them most. He saw the lies spoken about you. He saw the way you chose restraint over retaliation. You may have felt abandoned. You were never abandoned. The silence you interpreted as absence was actually presence working quietly. When you thought you were barely holding yourself together, heaven was reinforcing you from within. When you felt weak, you were being strengthened in ways you did not yet recognize. Your endurance was not random suffering. It was divine training. Every storm that tried to drown you refined you instead. Pressure did not crush you. It compressed you into something stronger. Fire did not consume you, it purified you. Silence sharpened your discernment. In the quiet seasons where answers did not come quickly, you learned to listen more deeply. You learned to recognize the whisper of God above the noise of fear. You developed sensitivity that noise could never cultivate. Lack built stewardship. When resources were limited, you learned discipline. You learned gratitude, you learned how to manage little faithfully. And that stewardship is preparing you for abundance that will not overwhelm you. Isolation built spiritual stability. When you stood alone, you learned to stand firm. When affirmation disappeared, you learned to anchor in identity instead of applause. You discovered that your strength did not depend on who was beside you. None of it was punishment, it was preparation. If God had removed every difficulty immediately, you would have missed the depth being formed inside you. If He had rescued you before you grew, you would not be ready to carry what is coming next. Heaven does not waste pain. Heaven repurposes it. The night season you endured had an expiration date, and now heaven declares it openly: the night season is over. This does not mean you will never face another challenge. It means you are no longer in the wilderness of survival. The internal chaos is settling. The constant resistance is lifting. You are stepping into a place where your soul can breathe again. The heaviness that once defined your days is losing its authority. The emotional exhaustion that followed you is being replaced with clarity. The fog is lifting, and when you look back, you will see something differently. What you once called "why me," you will recognize as He was shaping me. Your suffering was preparation, not punishment. You were not being overlooked, you were being developed. And now that development has positioned you for the next phase. To fully receive rest, you must also see your past through the correct lens. Because if you only interpret your struggles naturally, you will misunderstand their intensity. Your struggles were not merely bad luck. They were not random, unfortunate events stacked back to back. There was something deeper at play. You carried a divine assignment from birth. Before you understood your purpose, it existed. Before you recognized your calling, it was already marked. The enemy saw it before you did. He recognized potential when you were still unaware of it. He sensed impact when you were still discovering identity. And so the attack began early. The delays were not coincidences. They were attempts to make you doubt timing. The disappointments were crafted to make you question worth. The cycles were designed to convince you that you were stuck. But what the enemy underestimated was divine preservation. Your survival was not accidental. There were moments you should have collapsed under the weight, moments you should have given up, moments when anxiety could have consumed you completely. Yet something preserved you. Heaven fought on your behalf. Angels were assigned in moments you never knew were dangerous. Protection surrounded you when you were unaware of threats. The Spirit interceded for you when your own prayers were too exhausted to form words. Christ stood as advocate when accusations rose against you. You thought you were barely surviving. You were being defended. The fact that you are still here is proof that the war in the Spirit has already been decided in your favor. The verdict is in. The attacks did not eliminate you. The cycles did not define you. The discouragement did not silence you. The enemy's strategy did not succeed. And here is what shifts everything. What was settled in heaven will now manifest on earth. The spiritual war has already concluded. Now the visible realm must catch up. Doors that resisted you will begin to open. Opposition that felt immovable will dissolve. Areas where you were attacked most aggressively will become the places where you shine most brightly. Because spiritual battles often target future breakthroughs, the enemy attacks what threatens him, and you threatened him. But the war was spiritual and the victory is already secured. You're not fighting for victory anymore. You're walking into evidence of it. This is why the atmosphere feels different, lighter, less suffocating. There is a shift in the air around you because the decree has already been issued. You endured long enough. You survived what was meant to break you. Now what was settled in heaven is stepping into manifestation. The struggle is over. The rest is beginning. And your story is not defined by the battle. It is defined by the victory that was already written before you even knew you were in a fight. And now that you understand your struggle was preparation and the battle was spiritual, you're ready to receive a word that will recalibrate your entire pace. God is ending the striving. There comes a moment in the Spirit when heaven issues a decree, not a suggestion, not a whisper of possibility, a decree, a line drawn between seasons, a shift in authority. And for you, that decree sounds like this: enough striving, enough waking up feeling like you are entering a battlefield just to survive the day, enough exhausting yourself trying to prove your worth to people who were never assigned to validate you, enough forcing doors that were never meant to open by your effort, enough carrying burdens that heaven never authorized you to lift alone. The season of constant resistance is ending. You've been in a phase where every breakthrough seemed to require battle. Every blessing felt contested. Every opportunity came with friction. It was as if you were pushing against invisible pressure just to gain 1 inch of ground. But what you interpreted as opposition was often preparation. You were building spiritual capacity. Capacity is not glamorous. It is forged in pressure. It is strengthened through endurance. It is formed in seasons where you have to keep showing up when results are not immediate. You learned discipline when shortcuts were unavailable. You learned patience when acceleration was denied. You learned resilience when comfort disappeared. You were not being denied, you were being enlarged. Because when blessing arrives without capacity, it overwhelms instead of sustains. When opportunity arrives without depth, it exposes weakness instead of highlighting readiness. When increase arrives without maturity, it collapses under its own weight. God was not withholding, He was reinforcing. But now the reinforcement has done its work, and the transition begins. You're shifting from chasing opportunities to opportunities finding you. This does not mean you will become passive, it means you will no longer operate from desperation. The energy that once pushed you to overextend yourself is being replaced with clarity. The frantic need to make things happen is dissolving into trust that what is aligned will locate you. Where before you knocked repeatedly on doors that would not open, now doors will open at your arrival. Not because you demanded entry, not because you compromised to be included, but because your alignment precedes you. Favor moves ahead of obedience. And where before you felt the need to prove your worth, now your presence will command respect. You will walk into rooms without rehearsing your value. You will speak without second-guessing your legitimacy. You will occupy space without apologizing for existing. This is not ego. This is alignment. When identity is settled internally, striving loses its fuel. Divine helpers and covenant alignments are being released toward you. People who will recognize your value without persuasion. Connections that carry purpose instead of competition. Partnerships that feel natural instead of forced. You have carried too much alone for too long. That isolation was part of your formation, but it is not your permanent assignment. The scripture declares in Zechariah 4:6, "Not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord." In the last season, you relied heavily on determination. You pushed, you endured, you exerted, you survived through grit. But now the Spirit is shifting the source of your strength. You will accomplish more with less strain. The grace on your life is increasing. Grace is not merely forgiveness, it is divine enablement. It is heaven's assistance backing your obedience. It is momentum that does not require exhaustion. It is progress that does not demand burnout. Where once it took months to see movement, you will now witness acceleration. Where once resistance delayed you, alignment will advance you. Where once you felt heavy entering new assignments, you will feel carried. The season of grinding is shifting into the season of grace. Grinding built you. Grace will elevate you. And as this shift unfolds, you must understand something crucial. Rest does not mean inactivity. Because if you misunderstand rest, you will sabotage the very season you prayed for. Rest is alignment, not laziness. It is living in rhythm with God's timing rather than reacting to pressure. It is releasing the need to control outcomes and choosing to move when led instead of when anxious. Rest is posture, not pause. It is an internal stillness that coexists with external movement. It is the calm center that remains steady even when circumstances fluctuate. It is the refusal to let chaos dictate your condition. Look at Jesus. Storms surrounded him, crowds pressed him, demands followed him daily. Yet he was never frantic, he never rushed to prove himself, he never chased validation. He slept in a boat during a violent storm because he understood something deeper than the disciples did. He understood assignment. When you know your assignment, you do not panic at turbulence. Rest is the confidence that what God assigned you cannot be undone by external noise. You will still work, but you will work from rest, not rest from work. That distinction changes everything. Working from rest means you begin your day anchored instead of anxious. It means you move because you are led, not because you are pressured. It means your effort flows from clarity, not fear. You will move without panic. The frantic energy that once pushed you to respond to every opportunity will subside. You will discern which invitations to decline. You will recognize distractions disguised as blessings. You will conserve energy for assignments that matter. You will act without strain. This does not mean there will be no effort. It means effort will no longer feel like survival. It will feel like stewardship. And here is the mystery: productivity will increase while effort feels lighter. Because rest invites assistance. When you align with God's rhythm, heaven amplifies your movement. Doors open without you pounding on them. Conversations align without manipulation. Solutions surface without forcing. Rest is also protection. When you operate from alignment, you avoid unnecessary battles. You do not rush into environments that drain you. You do not attach to relationships that destabilize you. You do not overcommit to assignments that dilute your focus. Discernment sharpens in rest. Clarity increases in stillness. Energy multiplies in alignment. The world equates constant motion with progress. But motion without alignment is exhaustion. Rest is movement without strain and progress without anxiety. It is walking into rooms knowing you belong there because you were sent, not because you fought your way in. It is trusting that even when you are still, heaven is active. It is recognizing that the same God who formed galaxies without stress can orchestrate your life without panic. You are entering a season where your spirit will breathe again, where your mind will quiet, where your heart will stabilize, where your body will begin to heal from years of survival mode. Because survival mode is not your destiny, sustainable peace is. And as you embrace this posture of rest, you will notice something else: your impact deepens. Your words will carry more authority because they are no longer fueled by insecurity. Your presence will carry weight because it is anchored in identity. Your decisions will carry clarity because they are not rushed. Grace will define your pace. Alignment will define your movement. And peace will define your posture. The striving is ending, the rest is beginning. Not as a temporary pause, but as a new rhythm. You will still build, you will still create, you will still pursue vision, but you will do it with a calm center that cannot be shaken by delay or distracted by noise. Because now you understand something powerful. You're not fighting for position, you're positioned. You're not striving for validation, you're validated. You're not chasing blessing, you're aligned with it. The season of grinding formed you. The season of grace will reveal you. And in this new rhythm, you will discover that rest is not retreat. It is authority. It is trust embodied. It is faith lived. And it will carry you further than striving ever could. And as you settle into this new rhythm of rest and grace, something even deeper begins to unfold, because when God declares the struggle over, He does not simply remove pressure, He initiates what can only be described as a divine exchange. Heaven does not leave empty spaces. When God takes something from your life, He replaces it with something greater, something purer, something aligned with destiny. He does not merely subtract pain, He multiplies purpose. This is the principle revealed in Isaiah 61, where the promise is not partial relief, but supernatural replacement, beauty for ashes, joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. Notice the pattern. You bring Him what was burned down, and He returns something radiant. You offer Him what broke you, and He gives back something that builds you. You surrender what weighed you down, and He clothes you in something that lifts you. The exchange is not equal, it is extravagant. Heaven never repays loss with neutrality, it restores with abundance. Restoration in God's economy is always greater than what was taken. If years were lost, there will be acceleration. If relationships dissolved, there will be covenant connections. If opportunities collapse, there will be doors you never imagined. This is the double for trouble principle, where the very area that wounded you becomes the area that witnesses restoration. What embarrassed you becomes what empowers you. What exhausted you becomes what elevates you. The exchange is not symbolic, it is structural. It alters your internal posture. Fear is replaced with authority. Insecurity is replaced with confidence. Anxiety is replaced with unshakable peace. And this peace will not be circumstantial. It will not depend on conditions aligning perfectly. It will be anchored in the knowledge that God has balanced the scales. The heaviness you carried in silence is not forgotten. Heaven accounted for it. The tears you cried privately were not wasted. Heaven recorded them. The nights you endured were not overlooked. Heaven measured them. And now the balancing begins. You will notice the shift not only around you, but within you. The way you enter rooms will change. The way you speak will change. The way you carry yourself will change. You will realize that what once intimidated you no longer does. The same environment that once triggered insecurity will now feel like assignment territory. This is not arrogance, it is evidence of exchange. The divine exchange also ensures that your restoration will not be hidden. God does not restore you quietly when the suffering was public. He allows the evidence of His faithfulness to become testimony. People will look at your life and see the transformation. They will recognize that what was meant to diminish you instead refined you. Your story will minister without you forcing it. Your endurance will become proof that restoration is real. And here is what makes this even more powerful: the exchange is not just for you, it is generational. When you receive beauty for ashes, those connected to you receive hope. When you receive joy for mourning, those watching you receive faith. When you receive praise for heaviness, those burdened by despair receive courage. Heaven balances the scales not only for your relief, but for collective impact. The suffering you endured positioned you to carry a testimony that cannot be manufactured. And as the exchange unfolds, you will understand that nothing was wasted. Every tear fertilized something. Every disappointment prepared something. Every delay aligned something. The divine exchange proves that God does not merely close chapters, He rewrites narratives. And just as you begin to absorb the magnitude of this exchange, you must also recognize another truth that dissolves anxiety completely. The provision is already prepared. The fight for provision is over. You are not in a race to convince God to bless you. You're not in a competition to secure resources. You're not scrambling to manufacture what heaven has already arranged. God works from the end to the beginning. Before you entered the season of struggle, the solution was positioned. Before the attack formed, the rescue was secured. Before the need surfaced, the answer was stored. Psalm 23:5 declares that a table is prepared in the presence of your enemies, not after they disappear, not when circumstances look perfect, right in the middle of opposition. The preparation of the table is public demonstration. It is God declaring that provision does not depend on the absence of resistance. It depends on divine decree. The people you need are already being aligned. The doors that matter are already unlocked. The resources required for your next assignment are already allocated. You are not chasing provision. Provision is waiting for your arrival. Deuteronomy speaks of houses you did not build, vineyards, you did not plant wells, you did not dig. This is not theft. It is inheritance. It is prepared blessing. It is God storing something for you long before you understood you would need it. And perhaps right now you do not see it. Perhaps your current view still looks limited. But heaven's warehouse is not empty. The dispatch has already been released. Angels have already been assigned. What you are waiting for in the natural has already moved in the spiritual. This is why striving must end, manipulation must end, overexertion must end. You do not need to lower your standards to gain access. You do not need to exhaust yourself proving value. You do not need to force alignment. The King has engraved your name into the provision prepared for you. When you step into it, it will feel different. It will not feel like survival. It will feel like arrival. And the most liberating part of this truth is that you will know it was not your hustle that secured it. It was His faithfulness. The prepared provision will meet the prepared person. You are being refined while the blessing was being arranged. You were being strengthened while the table was being set. You were being trained while the doors were being unlocked. And when it manifests, it will not require begging. It will not require compromise. It will not require desperation. It will confirm that heaven had already decided. You are not waiting for provision. Provision is waiting for you. The exchange has already begun. The table has already been prophesied. The striving has already been decreed finished. Now you step forward, not as someone chasing survival, but as someone walking into inheritance. And as you walk, you will understand that the season of suffering was never the conclusion. It was the corridor leading to restoration. Heaven has balanced the scales. The struggle is over. The exchange is in motion. The provision is positioned. And what is coming will not feel like effort. It will feel like fulfillment. And now we arrive at the most important part of this entire shift, because knowing about rest is not the same as receiving it. Rest must be received, not just understood. You can agree with the message, resonate with the promise, even speak about peace to others, yet still live internally in tension. Rest is not automatic, it is intentional, it requires surrender. You must release anxiety that has quietly become familiar. You must lay down survival mode that once protected you but now exhausts you. You must dismantle the performance mentality that convinced you your value depended on productivity. Rest is worship. It is you declaring, Lord, I trust you enough to stop striving. It is the humility to admit you were never meant to carry everything alone. Your worth was sealed before your first accomplishment, before you produced anything, before you proved anything, before anyone applauded you. You were loved in your quiet as much as in your labor. Rest is not laziness, it is alignment. It is choosing to breathe without guilt. It is allowing your nervous system to unclench. It is permitting your soul to stop scanning for danger. Peace restores what stress damaged. Years of tension leave imprints on the body and the mind, but divine peace rewrites those imprints. It steadies your heartbeat. It clears your thoughts. It softens your posture. You are entering a lifestyle of rest, not a temporary break. Anchored trust will define your days. Unshakable calm will replace reactive urgency. The fight for survival is over. You are no longer bracing for impact. You're no longer waiting for the next blow. You are stepping into a new rhythm where confidence flows from trust, not control. Rest is not weakness, it is surrendered trust. And as we close this journey, remember this: you endured the wilderness. You survived the spiritual war. You were refined, not destroyed. What tried to break you instead built you. The decree stands firm and unshaken. The struggle is over. You are stepping into prepared provision that was arranged before the battle began. You are stepping into divine alignment that requires less force and more faith. You are stepping into sustainable peace that does not disappear when circumstances fluctuate. Rest is now your new normal. Even if waves rise again, your soul will remain anchored because your foundation has shifted from striving to surrender. The battle trained you, the struggle shaped you. But now heaven declares your restoration. Receive your rest not as a temporary pause between storms, but as a permanent posture of trust. Walk forward steady, walk forward secure, walk forward knowing that what once felt like survival is now giving way to inheritance. The struggle is over, the rest has begun.